What's up, guys? This is H.D. coming at you with a concert review. This is my first concert review, but there might be more coming in, and the reason why I'm doing this is that I go to a lot of shows. I've been going to shows probably for like 15 years or more, and sometimes I want to share my thoughts and get other people's input, but it's not everybody that always likes the same music that I do, so I figured, you know what? Let's use this nice little camera that I got, record something, put it up on YouTube, and see what people think, and maybe help somebody to find new artists or go to a show that they were not sure that they wanted to go to. So the show that I'm reviewing now was a J.I.D show. He played last Thursday in Montreal. Here was the 16th of May, I believe. So it was J.I.D, Saba, Mereba, and Mez. And honestly, it was probably one of the best rap shows that I've been to. I've been to like a fair amount of rap shows, and I would rate it alongside probably Danny Brown and Joey Badass in terms of some of the better rap shows that I've seen. So I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit of the details going into it. So this show was played at a venue in Montreal called L'Astral, who has like a maximum standing capacity, I think about 600 people. So it's a pretty small venue, but it makes for a really fun time for a rap show. And the show itself was sold out. They mentioned it during the show, so it was definitely quite a lot of fun in that respect. So going through the different acts, I missed most of Mez's set, to be honest, so if anybody is looking for some info on that, I can't help you with that. The show started at 8 p.m., I got there around 8:15, and Mez probably had another 5 minutes or so to go by the time I got there. With that being said, though, the crowd was already fairly sizable by the time I got there, and like when I walked in, you could kind of hear some big bass and like some deep bass and some beats being dropped, and it seemed like the crowd was really into it, which is a good sign, because for somebody who's like the first act out of four and the crowd was already reacting, that was already a pretty good sign. A lot of times like the crowd's already dead by that point, but everybody was kind of moving their hands up and down, and he seemed to do a pretty good job of warming up the crowd, and so that's definitely a plus, because anytime you get that from an opening act, it's usually a good sign for what's to come. So the next person that would be up on stage was Mereba, and I thought that I didn't know about Mereba, which is funny considering that J.I.D's first album, The Never Story, was one of my favorite albums, but usually I listen to albums kind of from start to finish without paying attention to any of the details, and so I never really paid attention to the fact that Mereba features on one of the tracks, but more to come later with that. So in terms of Mereba, one of the things that impressed me the most was the fact that she does a little bit of everything. And somebody in the crowd, I heard them mention behind me, was saying that, yo, she's so talented. And I kind of see that, because one of the good things that I really appreciated even before she went on stage is that there were instruments on stage, and I love it regardless of whether it's a rap show or not. If people also use instruments, then I think that's great. It always adds something to the show. You feel like there's a little bit more intimacy to it, because it's not just the same beat being played. And I have nothing particularly against that. It can work in particular contexts, but if you also have instruments, whether it's keyboards or guitars or whatever, you kind of feel like you're witnessing something that's a little bit more unique. And so for Mereba, I was not really familiar with much of her music, but she can sing, she can rap, she plays guitar, she's got a little bit of everything. When she started playing, I got some vibes of Janelle Monáe to some extent. Like definitely not exactly the same, but her songs are a bit folky, a bit soulful, and sometimes they drop into some more like hip hop beats. And so there's a little bit of everything there, which I think is a really interesting mix. And so definitely I'll be checking out more of her stuff in the coming weeks, because I was really impressed by her show. So it was her and one of her, I guess, bandmates or whatever you call them, who was on guitar mostly. And they put on a pretty good set, and people were really into it, and I think she was really into it as well. And so that's definitely another plus. Like when both the artists and the crowd are both into it, it makes for a pretty great show. So I think her set was probably around like half an hour. She played her songs, it was great, everybody was enjoying it. And then after she was done, the next artist that was going to come up was Saba. And again, I wasn't really familiar with Saba prior to the show, but a friend of mine who was thinking of coming was also like, oh, I want to see Saba as well. So it kind of got me excited, being like, all right, I don't know this guy, but like maybe it'll be something that'll interest me here. And to be honest, I was pretty impressed as well. Like, I'm gonna be listening to his music in the coming weeks as well, because I was impressed by the show he put on. Firstly, like, his rap is kind of like my style of rap as well. I don't like only bangers, I don't like only lyrical stuff. I like a wide spectrum of different rap, and I feel like he fits in the stuff that I like. Like, I have to listen to his songs on albums or singles more specifically to get more details, but one, he came on and had a lot of energy. He really kind of was more of a co-headliner than another opening act. Like, even the stage setup had a little bit of lights for him that were not present for the previous acts, and he really got the crowd going even more. Like, he would have times where he'd be like, oh, okay, I say this, you say that, and the crowd was really into it, and it was going back and forth, and he wasn't there just kind of rapping without doing anything else. He was feeding off the crowd energy, and the crowd was like going more crazy because of what he was doing. And so that, to me, was really good. And to give you guys a little bit more context on why I find this is important, and I don't really want to like shit on this person or shit on this show that I'm about to mention too much, but the last rap show I went to was Earl Sweatshirt, and his show really kind of turned me off completely because it lacked energy. Like, he came up and he looked like he was either too drunk or too stoned or both, or just extremely tired. And apparently it was towards the end of the tour, so they might be really tired, but he came on and he was like, yo, I'm gonna play for 1 hour and that's it. And so initially I was already like, well, that's kind of weird. And he was basically standing up there in a hoodie, rapping his songs kind of really low key. The crowd was really into it, but I just thought there was like a lack of energy and I couldn't really get into it. And so like with Saba and J.I.D, it was definitely different. And so, like I said, I'm going to be checking Saba out. And in terms of J.I.D, for me there was a lot of hype and a lot of expectation, because when the Never story came out, like, I only maybe got into it a few months after it came out, but when I did find out about it, it quickly became one of my favorite rap albums. And really, to this day, I still listen to that album extensively. And I don't think that J.I.D came to Montreal after releasing the Never story. Maybe he did and I missed it. But usually I find, especially with rap artists, like the first times they come to Canada will usually be to Toronto, maybe Vancouver. So I don't recall J.I.D having been to Montreal in the past couple years. And then, so yeah, the Never story was really definitely one of my favorites. I still listen to it now. And then when DiCaprio 2 came out, I was extremely excited because I wanted to see what else J.I.D would come up with. Honestly, I probably listened to that album, well, I did listen to it a lot less than I had the Never story, but leading up to the show, I kind of got into it a little bit more, and definitely after the show, I have been listening to it more. And that's something sometimes that happens with shows where, like, not that into the new album yet, but then after I see some of the songs being played live, I'm like, oh, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. And so for J.I.D, I think the great thing with this show is that, much like Saba, he had a lot of energy. He got the crowd involved. It was great. And like, there was not a lot of waiting between the acts. I think we waited at most maybe 15 minutes between each of the different acts for the next one to come on, which is not something that can be said for all artists. Like, the Joey Badass show I alluded to earlier, I had to wait a good maybe 45 minutes until he came on before the last act. Like, it was, come on, man, like, I don't know what you're doing, whatever, but like, let's get this going. But with J.I.D, he came on pretty promptly, and the first part of his set was mostly songs from the Never story. So for me, it was great because it was already all the songs that I really loved, and I was getting to hear them live for the first time. And I mean, he's a great rapper. A lot of his songs, like, he'll have changes of voice, changes of tone. Sometimes he'll rap fast, sometimes he'll rap slow, sometimes he sings a little bit, and he had a little bit of all of that in the first part of his set. And the other great thing that he did, I think, that got the crowd into it as well, and that really kind of gives you a little bit more context into the artistry of a lot of the songs, is that the DJ he's playing with will, for a couple of songs, play the sample that is used in the song. They kind of let that play out a little bit, and it transitions into the J.I.D song that uses that sample. So that's kind of cool, because a lot of these songs are a bit old school, but people are into them, and you can already kind of get moving and fuck with that. So it's pretty cool to have those little transitions. And so after the first half of the show, he started getting more into DiCaprio 2, which is his latest album that's come out, I don't know, a few months ago, I guess, at this point. Maybe it was last year, I don't remember, I lose track of time. But that album as well, now that I listen to it, it's getting close to the Never story. I've gotten into it a lot more, although I still prefer the Never story, but he really kind of upped the energy too for the second half of the album, which was great. And like the last two songs that he finished with were Off D's and 151 Rum, which are two of the bigger bangers of his album. So there was a nice flow from the beginning of the set list through to the end of the set list, and the crowd was loving it. And as with many rap shows here in Montreal, or maybe abroad, I don't know, you guys tell me what it's like in different places, but the crowd was smoking up a lot. J.I.D smoked up with the crowd a little bit at some point, and you could really feel it. There was like a fun vibe going on for the show. So like I was saying, if you're into J.I.D and you're not sure whether you want to go to the show or not, I highly recommend it. I think it'll be a great show. It's not that expensive, and the merch is not that expensive either. I'll try to include a picture in the video because I took some of the merch booth. It's definitely worth it, and for me, I think that J.I.D is probably one of the best up-and-coming rappers out there. Like, I think he's still pretty young compared to a lot of rappers, and I get a lot of the same vibes as I did from Kendrick. And Kendrick's also one of my favorite rappers. Although, for me, Good Kid, Mad City is still like one of my favorite albums of his, and probably my favorite album of his. And I think if J.I.D continues on the same path that he's going, he might be able to reach similar level of success. I'm not sure it'll be exactly the same because Kendrick's like pretty high up there, but definitely check the show out. Check out Saba, check out Mereba, check out Mez. They're all quite good, and I highly recommend listening to them. So that's it for the review. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer them. And I'll let you guys know what's coming up for the next show. I should be going to Wise Blood in a few days, so look out for that review coming up soon. Alright, peace.